Hey everyone, welcome back to the VisX Show. I'm your barefoot host, Vis, and today we're going to dive deep into something that's not just important to me, it's one of the fundamental pillars of how I approach relationships, life, and even my spiritual journey. We're going to talk about kindness. And I promise you, if you stick around until the end, I'm going to share a deeply personal story about one of the most important days of my life. A story that few people know about, and one that I think will help illustrate why this topic matters so much. Before we dive in, I want you to think about something for a moment. When was the last time someone's kindness caught you off guard? Maybe it was a stranger holding the door when your arms were full of groceries. Maybe it was someone letting you merge in heavy traffic when everyone else seemed determined to keep you out. Or maybe it was something bigger. A friend showing up exactly when you needed them, even though you hadn't asked for help. You see, kindness isn't just some feel-good concept we teach our kids. It's not just a nice idea or a religious principle. Kindness is a powerful force that can actually save lives. I don't say that metaphorically, I mean in the most literal sense possible, but we'll get to that. First, I want to talk about why kindness has become one of the most important philosophical and spiritual pillars in my life. It's a family value that I teach to my kids, something we discuss regularly at dinner. It's a lens through which I try to view every interaction I have with other people, whether it's online or in person. You know, there's this powerful verse in the Bible. James 1:27 says that true religion is taking care of widows and orphans in their distress. So think about that for a moment. Out of all the things that could define true religion, all the rituals, all the rules, all the traditions, it comes down to, when looking from the outside, is being kind to those who need help in ways they can't help themselves. But this isn't just about religion or spirituality. Science actually has shown us some fascinating things about kindness. When we experience kindness from others, our bodies physically change. Our brain chemistry shifts. Serotonin levels increase. Our heart rate variability improves. And here's what's really interesting. These positive changes don't just happen when we receive kindness. They happen when we give kindness. They even happen when we simply witness kindness or tell other people about times we've been kind. Think about that. Just talking about volunteering or charitable work can trigger positive neurological responses in our brains. It's as if we're hardwired for kindness. And if it's part of our basic operating system, then kindness is a life optimization hack. Pretty good, yeah? So now, I want to share something specific that I do, something that's become a habit for me over the years. Whenever I go out to a restaurant, I sit down at a table, I make it a point to speak to my server while looking them in the eyes. In that first interaction, I like to ask their name, and then I use their name throughout the meal. So let's say I have a server named Tammy. When Tammy refills my water, I pause whatever conversation I'm having, I look up, I make eye contact and say, "Thank you, Tammy." When she brings the food, same thing, eye contact, a genuine smile. "Thank you, Tammy." When she checks if everything's okay, I look at her, I smile and respond directly to her. Now, this might seem like it's a small thing. It might even seem unnecessary. But here's why I do it and why I think it matters so much. Imagine for a moment that Tammy is a single mother. Maybe she has small kids at home who are sick. Maybe she's working double shifts just to make ends meet. Maybe she's dealing with an abusive relationship or crushing debt or chronic pain or depression or all of these things at once. Maybe she's been on her feet for 10 hours dealing with rude customers, trying to keep a smile on her face while everything in her life feels like it's falling apart. And maybe, just maybe, she's reaching her breaking point. Maybe this is the day where it all feels too heavy, too hard, too hopeless. Maybe this is the day where she's thinking about driving her car off a bridge on the way home instead of going back to face another day like this one. You might think I'm being dramatic, but let me share some statistics because this is more common than most people realize. So in 2022, which is the most recent good statistics, complete statistics that we have for the United States, in the United States alone, 13.2 million people, that's 4% of our population, seriously thought about suicide. 13.2 million people seriously thought about suicide in the United States in 2022. 3.8 million, or 1% of our population, made a plan. 1.6 million attempted it. And 49,000 people died by suicide. That's one death every 11 minutes. Suicide rates have increased by almost 40% since the year 2000. And these aren't just numbers. These are mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, friends, and colleagues. But here's what's even more sobering. These statistics are getting worse. Seemingly, the COVID pandemic, the rise of social media echo chambers, and the increasing polarization we see in society today are making the mental health challenges that people face even more intense. We live in an age where we're more connected than ever through technology, yet more disconnected than ever in real, meaningful ways. Social media gives us the illusion of connection, but it's often just that, an illusion. True connection, real intimacy, genuine, transparent relationships, these things take time, attention, and effort. And in our fast-paced, always connected world, these are exactly the things many people are lacking. Think about it. When was the last time you had a deep, meaningful conversation with someone where you both put your phones away and really listened to each other? When was the last time you sat with someone in their pain without trying to fix it or make it better, but just being present? This is why that simple act of looking Tammy in the eyes and using her name matters so much. It's not just about being polite. It's about acknowledging her humanity. It's about creating a moment of genuine connection in a world where such moments are becoming increasingly rare. And this brings me to that story I promised you at the beginning. It's not an easy story for me to tell, but I think it's important because it illustrates why I feel so strongly about this topic. The first thing you need to know is that I'm a person that experiences emotions very deeply. I always have. Even in my middle age, I'd like to think that I have become better at managing my actions when I'm emotional, but I still feel emotions very, very strongly, even more so when I was younger. When I was 16 years old, I was in what felt like the deepest love of my life. Like many teenage relationships, it was intense, all-consuming, and in my mind, it was forever. This young woman felt like the only thing in my life worth living for. There were other factors to other emotional pains and traumas that I hadn't dealt with yet that contributed to this, but this relationship felt like my anchor in a stormy world. And then one night, it ended. I don't even remember exactly what happened now, but I remember leaving her house, getting in my pickup truck, and driving home. It was nighttime and it had just rained. The streets were wet, the clouds were reflecting the orange glow of the street lights in a way that makes everything feel surreal. I was driving from the more populated part of town toward the rural area where I lived, and the street lights were getting fewer and farther between, the trees getting thicker, and the darkness was closing in. And somewhere along the way, I decided I was done. I couldn't take the pain anymore. It hurt too much. I couldn't imagine facing another day feeling this way. So the road that I was on came to a T intersection. I knew there was a deep ditch on the other side, so I took my seatbelt off, pressed down on the gas pedal, and made the decision to end my life. I remember seeing my headlights getting brighter as they reflect the other side of the ditch. I remember entering the intersection, and at the very last minute, I slammed on my brakes and locked my arms on the steering wheel. My truck ended up nose down in that ditch. Thanks to the solid steel front bumper, there was no damage to the vehicle. I had to wait for another car to come by and help pull me out, and then I drove home and went about my life as if nothing happened. But here's why I'm telling you this story. That was back in the late 90s, long before social media was making people feel inadequate about their lives, long before smartphones were documenting every moment, long before Instagram was showing us carefully curated versions of other people's supposedly perfect lives, long before people were getting trapped in echo chambers that amplified their fears and anxieties, long before a global pandemic changed how we think about connection and isolation. If I felt that much pain, then can you imagine what people are feeling now? This is why kindness matters. This is why looking someone in the eyes and acknowledging their humanity isn't just nice, it's necessary. You never know who's having the hardest day of their life. You never know whose story you might change with one simple act of kindness. Now, I'm not talking about creating massive programs or initiatives to help people on a grand scale. Those things are important, but what I'm talking about is much more personal, much more immediate. I'm talking about doing the messy work of being intentional and involved in people's lives. Start at home with your family, your kids, your spouse, your parents, your siblings. Be kind to your coworkers. Be kind to people in the various groups and communities in which you belong. And yes, be kind to strangers. Here in Fort Worth, Texas, we're the 12th largest city in the United States now, and we have a significant homeless population. One simple act of kindness you can show is just looking them in the eye when you pass them on the street. You don't have to give them money or stop to talk, but just acknowledge their humanity instead of averting your eyes and pretending they don't exist. Because here's the truth. Every person around you is dealing with pain on some level. How do I know this? Because I deal with pain every day. You deal with pain every day. Maybe it's physical pain. And let me tell you, as someone who's dealt with chronic pain for decades, you never know how emotionally draining it can be until you've experienced it. Maybe it's emotional pain or spiritual pain or relational pain. The point is, we're all carrying something. And sometimes, one small act of kindness can make the difference between someone making it through their darkest day or giving up entirely. And now, before I wrap up, I want to share today's barefoot thought. In the modern world, most people try and insulate their feet from any sensation that isn't soft and supportive. We create orthotics in an attempt to allow our feet to be as weak as possible while still functioning. But in barefoot culture, we lean into the different sensations. We recognize that our feet get stronger by being supported less. One of the things I realized early in my barefoot journey was that after I spent time letting my feet adapt to different sensations, rocks, pebbles, sticks, broken pecans, even the occasional piece of glass, my feet actually craved those sensations. When I had shoes on, the things that would cause discomfort were the things that made my feet feel really alive. Much like the rest of our life, humans are designed to be optimized through stress and different levels of discomfort. And while we should still be protective, like watching where we step when barefoot, it isn't reasonable or beneficial to avoid all discomfort. Trying to do so only causes us to weaken, and it diminishes our overall capabilities to live and experience life fully. The same is true with kindness. Sometimes being kind means stepping into uncomfortable situations. Sometimes it means feeling someone else's pain. Sometimes it means making yourself vulnerable. But just like our bare feet grow stronger through contact with the earth, our capacity for kindness grows through these authentic connections with others. So today, I encourage you to take off your metaphorical shoes. Let yourself feel the full range of human experience. Be kind to your feet, yes, but more importantly, be kind to every person you meet, because you never know whose life you might save with one simple act of kindness. Thank you for listening to this episode of the VisX Show. If you're struggling, please reach out to a friend, to a professional, to anyone. The National Suicide Prevention Line is available 24/7 at 988 on your phone. And if you can, be that person who looks someone in the eye today and really sees them. So until next time, I'm Vis, reminding you to take off your shoes, lean in to a little bit of discomfort, and do your part to make the world a little bit kinder.